where you come for instant post-game reaction.
Oh, hell yeah.
This is Dubs OT.
Can't wait.
With John Dickinson.
Hey, JD, what you up to, sugar? Long time no talk to.
On KNBR 104.5 and 6.8. Streaming live at KNBR.com and on the KNBR app.
Kuminga's giving everybody another opportunity. Bajewski three. Mooney, another opportunity. Draymond down the lane, and Kuminga will finish it off. It's only right to finish it that way. With Air Kuminga, come fly with me.
Well, another night and another Golden State Warriors victory as they get the job done against the Pelicans over at Chase Center. 104-89 is the final, so they complete the two-game sweep of the little mini-series and improve to 4-1 on the season. We welcome you in to Dubs OT with JD John Dickinson here on KNBR, the sports leader. 808 KNBR, the number, as we come to you live from Harmonic Brewing in Thrive City. Appreciate the fine folks at Harmonic Brewing for having us out here as they do following each and every Dubs game over at Chase Center. Warriors with a nice win. If you had told me that this team was going to win not one but two games without Stephen Curry in the first week of the season, I wouldn't have believed you. Yet here we are, the Warriors putting a thumping as the game went on against the Pelicans and winning this one by 15 after they flipped a 20-point deficit into an 18-point victory last night. We've got the great Greg Silver on hand as well in our San Francisco studios. Kyle Haar on hand at the controls, helping out Greg as well. And, Greg, I mean, just kind of bring you in off the top here as we set the table for the show. Big things that stand out for me, really just solid and tenacious defense. I thought Draymond Green was brilliant in this one, and the combination, the pairing on that front line of Draymond Green and Trayce Jackson-Davis continues to really be a productive unit and lead to productivity defensively up and down the Warriors roster. And you look at just the length and the ability to get in the passing lanes and push teams off their spot and force them into some uncomfortable positions and trying to get into their offense. So look, this was a shorthanded Pelicans team tonight as well. The Pelicans basically in some ways kind of punted on this game, but balanced scoring attack. Buddy Hield comes alive again in the second half. Jonathan Kuminga backed up what I thought was his best game of the year last night with another real solid performance off the bench. And, yeah, balanced attack. I mean, the Warriors did it in the paint to the tune of 56-34, 13-38 from three. But you look at Buddy Hield winds up being the leading scorer. But for a good chunk of the night, it was Trayce Jackson-Davis and Draymond Green who looked like they were going to be the Warriors' leading scorers as Golden State ends up with 6 in double figures. Buddy Hield, Jonathan Kuminga, Trayce Jackson-Davis, Draymond, Brandon Pajemski, and Kyle Anderson off the 0 for last night. He didn't miss a shot in the ball game tonight. 4 for 4, hit a 3, 10 points, did miss a free throw. But all in all, a couple of really nice victories, and the Warriors improved themselves to 4-1 on the season. Good evening to you, Greg. What's going on tonight, my man?
Good evening to you. I'm loving the background music we got going in your scene in Harmonic Brewing. That looks like
the band is playing tonight.
Yeah, that's fun. You know, actually, our guy, so you mentioned Kyle Haar helping out. Our guy, Casey Copeland, also helping out tonight. And he's a performer himself. He's performed out at Harmonic before. And I said, tell me the next time you go, we're going to have to combine my two worlds and bring it all out there, show up with the fattest crowd you've seen in the Bay Area.
Yeah, it is a good time out here at Harmonic Brewing to be sure. And I'm getting a sip of the Prague Rock. No Kolsch tonight. Typically it's a Kolsch, but cheers to
I went Prague Rock last time too.
Yeah, Prague Rock has become a secondary favorite of your guy out here at Harmonic Brewing. We got Mike and Jesse running things here. We had Shay and Alex last night, so great to have the full crew here over the course of the last couple of days. And, of course, Jimmy running the place. Got to see him yesterday during Tolbert and Copes. And, again, we really appreciate the folks at Harmonic Brewing for having us out here following each and every Dubs game with Dubs OT on KNBR. So 808 KNBR, the number, if you want to jump in and join the conversation. The Golden State Lumber and Building Materials text line is open as well if you want to jump in there. And you can also jump into the YouTube chat, as we always appreciate folks filing in to the YouTube chat to jump in. And the Warriors building themselves a nice little cushion here at the beginning of the year. I know they were 6-2 last year. We talked about the fact that they were 6-2 last year, but the way that they're doing it with the balance, with the defense, and also winning a couple of games without Stephen Curry. I don't care who was not playing for the Pelicans or has been injured for the Pelicans. You're able to get wins without Steph Curry. If you're the Golden State Warriors, you're surely going to take them. And it is an indicator. I think that maybe this team's got a little bit more talent top to bottom than some of the teams that they've trotted out these last two seasons since they won the NBA championship in 2022. So all good to this point for the Warriors, able to bounce back, get the 2 wins against Portland and Utah in the first 2, have the loss in the home opener to the Clippers, but then able to bounce back. And again, I think you probably would have taken 3-2 if you were the Warriors, but 4-1, I think, would have been the goal. Off to a great start, thinking, maybe you beat the Clippers, you win the first 2 on the road against the worst 2 teams maybe in the Western Conference, and then you split the games against a pretty talented Pelicans team. But they don't have DeJounte Murray. They sat C.J. McCollum out of this game. Trey Murphy has been out and will continue to be out here. So it's not really the same Pelicans team that the Warriors had seen, and they did it without Andrew Wiggins as well, with the low back strain. And Wiggins got off to a really good start the first 3 games of the season, very active, and his best game on Sunday. And then you take him away, and you're thinking, wow, that has the opportunity to really hamstring the Warriors. But no, it didn't. Guys step up and step in, and Buddy Hield has been just a revelation. Buddy Hield with 21 more points in this one after the 28-point game that he had last night. And now it makes you wonder how far the Warriors can truly take this thing as they hit the road for what will be a really difficult road trip coming up here, these next 5. I think the Rockets are improved. Washington is the one game that I think you have to get as the second game on that trip. And then Boston, the defending NBA champions, who lost tonight at Indiana, followed by the lone unbeaten now in the NBA, right? The Cleveland Cavaliers, 5-0. They're the lone 5-0
Lone
team.
5-0 team. Kenny Atkinson, shout out.
In the NBA this season. There are some teams that have played fewer than the Thunder, 4-0, but that's it. There's only the 2 unbeaten teams. It's the Thunder, and oh, by the way, the final game of that road trip for the Warriors is in Oklahoma City. So they go and play Boston 4-1, Cleveland 5-0, and OKC 4-0 over the final 3 of that trip. And hell, the Wizards are even 2-2 in the early going, and we talked about the Rockets. Rockets are 2-2 in the early going this season. So 808 KNBR, 415-808-5627, 408 on the Golden State Lumber and Building Materials text line jumping in. JD, if the Warriors went 1-4 on this upcoming road trip, would you feel like it negates these last few dominant showings at home? You have to see how it looks and who's playing. I think before you have to look too deeply into it. But the one good thing is they've built enough of a cushion to where if they go on the road and they don't play well, or they have to play shorthanded and they don't play well, they're not going to come home buried. When they lost on Sunday and fell to 2-1, and the Pelicans were coming in, and you knew you were going to probably play 2 games without Stephen Curry, my first thought is, are they going to be 2-3 and then have the potential to go 1-4 and come back in a hole at 3-7? Now the notion of the Warriors being in some kind of big-time hole goes out the window. And it goes out the window because they were able to flip the game last night as they did thanks to Lindy Waters and company, and then chase that one with another one tonight. So impressive stuff for the Warriors as they get the job done and win this one with some excellent defense, really from the opening tap. Warriors up 28-20, end of quarter number one. They give up 24 in the second, 22 in the third, 23 in the fourth, 89 for the game. And they were just pestering the Pelicans all throughout the course of the evening. And so an impressive showing defensively with Trace Jackson-Davis and Draymond Green both out there together, which is that combination that Steve Kerr really likes that I mentioned. You just look at all the starters in this one, plus Kuminga, with some real strong plus-minus, double-digit plus-minus for the starters, and then Kuminga off the bench with his 16 points, a +8, and everybody else solid for the Warriors in this one. Only negative player in terms of plus-minus was GP2, and he only played 7 minutes, so it winds up being a night where GP can get a little bit of a breather, but you hold the Pelicans to under 37% shooting, 11 of 38 from three. You move the basketball. I mean, that's been the other thing offensively. The Warriors, they're getting steals, they're blocking shots, but on the offensive side, they're really moving the basketball and getting good looks. They're getting good looks inside. They're getting good looks from three, and the pieces and the balance are really there for the Warriors here in the early part of the season. All right, let's get out to the phones. Our tip-off caller of the evening is going to be the one and only Drew Down in Tracy here on the Sports Leader. What's going on, Drew Down?
Hey, good evening, JD. Good evening, Greg. Hey, man, big win for the Warriors. Definitely a strength in numbers type of victory. I know the Pelicans were shorthanded, obviously, but Dubs were a little shorthanded themselves. So I like to build on your defense. With defense, I got to start with Draymond, man. His defense on Zion I thought was incredible. Zion was 5 for 20 and obviously, very frustrated throughout the game. Draymond was 14 points, 4 rebounds, 6 assists, and he had 6 stops. I thought he had some wild passes and some turnovers, but other than that, I thought he was amazing in the second half. The Warriors were a little sloppy with the ball in the first half. I think they cleaned it up a lot better in the second half. And, man, Trace Jackson-Davis was amazing, man. The way he started the game, I was a little perplexed, why he seemed to get frozen out in that second quarter. And that was obviously the worst stretch of the game. I think they had like 6 points in the first 6 minutes of that second quarter. The lineups were a little funky. I think with GP2 and Draymond and Kyle Anderson, not a lot of scoring out there. The offense was clunky. I didn't think GP2 was particularly effective tonight. At least definitely not on the offensive end. But as soon as TJD came in to start that third quarter, I thought the Warriors dominated the game for the most part outside that stretch. Kuminga, I thought, again, rough start, but he was great in the second half. He was a lot more patient, made some better decisions, very patient. So, yeah, good to see a good game from Kuminga. Other than those free throws, he had a couple free throws where he failed the blocks out, and the Pelicans got some rebounds. That could come back to bite us in a close game. Didn't matter tonight, but other than that, I thought he was good, patient, made great decisions. And then Buddy Hield, man, didn't have a great start to the game. I thought that Busby beater, to end the first half, I thought that definitely maybe helped him get on track a little bit. He had a lot of big shots in the second half, and I think people are maybe underselling his game a little bit. I thought his defense was active. He had a block and a steal, and it's just overall activity. Whether it's cuts and just moving around. I thought Buddy Hield was really good in the second half, and we got a tough road trip coming up, but it's imperative that, we got some early wins, 4-1, and I'm not counting this team out of any game. Obviously, we got some tough games coming up, but this team's gritty. They're deep, and let's hopefully get some of those guys healthy, and let's keep this thing rolling, man. Appreciate it, guys.
Yeah, no, appreciate it, Drew Dan. It'll be a good test, but you'd love to have that test at 4-1, and I agree with a lot of the things you said tonight. I thought Jonathan Kuminga was good tonight. He isn't going to be perfect in terms of finishing. I thought, Greg Silver had texted me this during the game, and I thought it was a real good point that the shot selection for Kuminga was better in this one. He did take 12 shots. He missed a couple at the rim, but he was taking 1-3 tonight, 0 for 1 from 3. 6 for 11 from 2, and really the 6 of 11 probably could have been an 8 or a 9 for 11 from 2 on a lot of other nights if he's able to finish at the rim a little bit more effectively. And then we're talking about Jonathan Kuminga having a 20-point game. Like I thought Kuminga was good. Played exclusively at the 4 tonight. I'm only going to mention that the one time. Actually, I probably will mention it at other points. But don't want to make it all about that. Obviously, they're trying to play him at the 3. But he is just more comfortable when there are shooters out there on the court with him and another wing out there with him, and then one big out there with him, whether it's Draymond or whether it's Kevon Looney or even Trayce Jackson-Davis, no matter how it ultimately shakes out there. But no, I thought Kuminga was good, real good. I don't even think it was got off to a tough start. Maybe missing some shots early, but no, I thought he was active. They were letting him bring the ball up the court a little bit without a true point guard. And he was bringing it up and getting the Warriors into their, first pass and their offense. And so, no, I think these last 2 games for Kuminga have been just plus performances, and performances that have contributed to wins. And that's, to me, what it's all about. Like, I could care less whether Kuminga scores 20 or 25 or looks like he's a future star. And I've always said that. It's, can he contribute by doing the little things that help teams win? And tonight he did that, and last night he did that. And so I think he gets a ton of credit. And that's what Steve Kerr's looking at. That's what the Warriors coaching staff is looking at. It's, can you do the little things to help earn victories? And so, Kuminga, real nice night for Jonathan Kuminga in this one. Trayce Jackson-Davis, excellent. And the Warriors finding Trayce Jackson-Davis. I thought the Pelicans early, knowing the Warriors wanted to shoot a lot of threes, really trying to force the Warriors at times off the three-point line. And the Warriors were a lot of the discussion about wanting to take 40 a game. And look, they ended up with 38, 40 to 50 3-pointers a game. They ended up attempting 38. But I thought the Warriors took what the defense was giving them, and the defense was giving them the interior a lot in this one. Anytime you're able to play defense the way that the Warriors played, you're able to get out in transition a little bit. Not a lot of transition points in this game either way, but I thought the way the Warriors attacked the bucket in the half-court offense was really one of the keys. And again, the ball movement with the 32 assists on 41 field goals made, and a lot of that leading to buckets in the paint, I thought was key to this victory. And as we mentioned at the top of the show, 56-34 points in the paint advantage to the Golden State Warriors. All right, 808 KNBR, 415-808-5627. Let's go ahead and pause here, and we'll come back, and we will continue to discuss this one as the Warriors improve to 4-1 on the year. Who gets your game ball tonight in a balanced scoring attack? I'll give you my game ball of the night. We'll get Greg Silver's game ball of the night coming up as well. But who gets your game ball for the Warriors as they handle the Pelicans again, beating them over at Chase, 104-89. It's John Dickinson. It's Dubs OT with JD from Harmonic Brewing in Thrive City. Cheers to you on the Sports Leader.
Hoops Heads, Dubs OT with John Dickinson keeps falling. Streaming live at twitch.tv/thesportsleader.
Ingram for three. That's a big play. 3.3 to work with. Buddy Hield, good look to end that. The Warriors play beat the clock. Buddy's first three, and that's a little jolt of energy.
Yeah, Buddy Hield's been nothing but a jolt of energy for the Dubs. And he winds up being their leading scorer again. How many times has Buddy Hield been their leading scorer? Is it 3 now times he's been their leading scorer? He ends up with 21 tonight. The Warriors do it with defense, and they go on to beat the Pelicans by the final of 104-89. We're back here at Harmonic Brewing. It's John Dickinson. It's Dubs OT with JD, as we are with you following each and every Dubs game for KNBR, the sports leader. 808 KNBR, the number to jump in and join the conversation. 415-808-5627. Golden State Lumber and Building Materials text line. Phone lines open. We'll get into the YouTube chat coming up here in this segment as the regulars continue to file in and join the conversation with us and join the conversation with each other. As always, we love the community of the YouTube chat here on Dubs OT. Game balls. Feel free to throw your game ball in on the YouTube chat if you want. My game ball tonight, and if you want to jump in with your game ball, you can at 808 KNBR or on the Golden State Lumber and Building Materials text line. My game ball tonight goes to Draymond Green. Tone setter, scoring the basketball, elite defense. I mean, Draymond Green was spectacular in this game. In all phases. He made 3 threes. He had 6 assists. He's running the point forward. He had 5 block shots. To go with a steal. Steve Kerr won another challenge to prevent him from picking up a foul. Steve had a 4-for-4 heater going to begin the year on challenges, and they were all Draymond Green fouls. And then he broke up the streak late in the game, trying to go 5-for-5. Little heat check on the challenge. What? I thought from Steve Kerr. Little heat check. It was a little Buddy Hield 30-foot heat check that didn't go Kerr's way. But nevertheless, the Warriors didn't need that one maybe as much as they needed the first 4. But they do get the win regardless. And Draymond Green, game ball, 14 points to go with the 3 threes and the 6 assists and the 5 blocks. He set the tone, played 30 minutes. I know a couple of nights ago I was like, where was Draymond down the stretch against the Clippers? But Draymond was spectacular in this one without Steph Curry. And look, sometimes without Steph, we've had the conversation over the years, Greg, where's Draymond? Is he going to keep his emotions in check? Is he going to keep himself in the game? Is he going to be locked in and engaged? Haven't needed to worry about any of that these last 2 nights, especially tonight. Draymond Green gets my game ball here on Dubs OT.
Draymond Green also gets my game ball, and I'll shout out a few other game ball honorable mentions to not make it the driest possible back-to-back between me and you, who just happen to be aligned on this one. But yeah, Draymond, I think that's a good point you bring up, though, the energy factor, because this is a letdown spot naturally for the team after the win they had last night. And here's the thing, which I was going to say first segment, but wanted to actually end up getting to the phone calls and then kind of forgot about it, was I actually wasn't down with 3-2. I wasn't have been that cool with it, especially when you consider last night's win, because I think that it's a letdown game where they could have come out and looked flat. CJ McCollum was not playing, so it was an even more decimated Pelicans roster. And I could have seen this being a totally ugly, clunky, no offensive shooting, 20-plus turnover kind of game that the Warriors just never really had a chance in and really blew an opportunity. It wasn't that. And I want to start with Draymond in terms of being the tone setter. I think Wiggins is somebody whose engagement level has come into question a lot of the time. Draymond Green is right there in that discussion, especially when there is no Steph. And now 2 games in a row, he's been defending a guy like Zion. Tonight, he was fantastic and for sure the best player on the court. He could have had the same game and scored 3 points, and I would have thought he was fantastic. But to have 14 and end up being I guess he ended up being the 4th leading scorer on the team. But for a second there, he was the 2nd leading scorer on the team, and he was the first one in double figures, the leading scorer at half. So big props to Draymond for what he did as a tone setter tonight. And then if I was going to bring him some honorable mentions, I thought Jonathan Kuminga was great tonight again. I mean, 27 minutes. Here's the thing when it comes to Kuminga and his minutes. When he plays like that, he's going to get his minutes. That's not going to be a problem. And now we've seen him get 28 and 27 minutes on back-to-back nights in which he's played 90% really, really good basketball. Trace Jackson-Davis, another guy who got 20 minutes tonight and was not that effective last night in the win. Much better tonight, 7 of 9 shooting, catching lobs, and I think he's a really good passer and quick decision maker, and that's kind of why he makes that offense move. Moses Moody cracked the 30-minute mark. I know that's a big big mark for the Moody fans out there, and he had a much better game too. So I think Draymond set the tone. Of course, Buddy Hield caught fire with the offense, but all in all, it kind of starts from the top down in these sort of situations. And so props to the young players, and I think they followed suit from their defensive engine.
Yeah, no, again, it was a tone-setting kind of a performance, I thought, from Draymond Green. And the Warriors need that even more when Steph Curry isn't out there. San Jose Jazz fan, the 4th, Draymond played the whole game on a back-to-back without Steph. That's surprising. Yeah, he didn't get kicked out. He didn't get into it with the officials. And look, he said he's getting under 10, right? He set his own over-under on technical fouls at 9.5 for the season, and Draymond Green bet the under. So maybe you got to bet on Draymond Green at that point. Max Lopez, for all the criticism Green gets over the year about discipline, can we give him props on staying in the lab on his shot? Love that he arched out that line drive. Well, it's still a line drive, but he's got a little more arc to it. I agree with that, Max. Look, I've said, and you can go back and check the tape from my previous radio life here in the Bay Area, I have always been of the belief, even before Draymond maybe believed it, that he had the ability to get back to being a respectable shooter from three-point range. And it really took him until last year in low volume to do it. I mean, he had the 1 year where he was about 38% in 2016. I mean, that was the outlier. That was the 15-16, 73 win team when Steph Curry was the unanimous MVP. But, in Draymond, teams would just dare him to take those threes on the pick and roll, and Draymond would get the ball and teams would just dare him. And he would beat teams that dare him. And I think when Kevin Durant came, Draymond was like, look, we got Kevin Durant on this team. We got Steph Curry. Klay Thompson was not sacrificing bleep, as Klay Thompson told everybody when Kevin Durant came over. And so Draymond, I think, was like, you know what? I'm just going to focus on being a glue guy and an elite defender, DPOY kind of a guy. And I think he kind of gave up on his shot for 3 years. And when you give up on your shot for 2-3 years, it becomes a lot more difficult to get it back. And so I think Draymond really these last couple of years does deserve credit for trying to figure out a way to be a little bit more respectable from 3-point range. So I'll give him his props. I got no problem giving his props for sticking with it. And the results for Draymond Green have been there last season and tonight. I mean, he's 3 for 5 in the game tonight. And the Warriors really needed Draymond Green to be effective from 3-point range because teams are really going to dare him to try and knock those down with Steph Curry out of the lineup, and the Warriors kind of limited limited in terms of they have depth of shooting, but teams are really going to try to take those guys away and make the non-shooters beat you. And Draymond's one of the non-shooters that has proved himself to be able, at least tonight, to help beat on the opponent. 808 KNBR 415-808-5627. Dubs OT with JD from Harmonic Brewing. Cheers to everybody out here at Harmonic Brewing here on a Wednesday night as the Warriors get the win and improve their record on the season to 4-1. I think coming into tonight, Greg, to go back to your point, I wanted to touch on this a little bit. I was more speaking if we were having a conversation a week ago tonight before the Portland game, and you say, hey, what would this Warriors record be? And look, maybe the answer is the same. And what would you accept? I think a lot of Warrior fans would have signed up for the 3-2, even if it meant that you were losing potentially 2 of the 3 games at home. I thought the Portland and Utah
but
games
you know what? I would say
given.
which 3? Like, I would say which 3 and how did the games play out? After last year, I'd be getting picky.
Clippers and one of the Pelicans game. Like a week ago before, I guess 8 days ago now because the opener was a week ago tonight. But if we're talking about this before the Portland game, I would have said Portland and Utah need to be wins on the road. And you know what? You might come back and lose to the Clippers. And you might split with the Pelicans, and at that point, if you're 3-2, you're probably feeling pretty good about it. But again, that was full strength. I would have had that conversation. This team has been far under full strength, and again, I don't care who else hasn't been full strength. Pelicans are not full strength last night. They kind of half punted tonight, although Zion Williamson played, and Draymond Green erased Zion Williamson. That's one of the big storylines of the ball game tonight was the job that Draymond Green did defensively on Zion, who is really the one guy that the Pelicans had to be able to attack and try and hit the Warriors in the paint, and the Warriors wind up being the team that hits the Pelicans in the paint. So impressive win. But I think 4-1, considering shorthanded, is – that's all. It's a +1 for me. It really is. And we'll see what happens with Stephen Curry. He's going to get reevaluated on Friday. I would be surprised if Steph played in Houston or Washington. It feels to me right now like the Boston game would probably be the most likely point at which Steph returns to action, the soonest, the earliest that he would be able to come back. But we'll see. I know Draymond had the note the other night that Steph was, in the building walking around a little bit, no limp and all of that. So maybe it winds up being something relatively minor and he can come back. But I also think the Warriors have given themselves a little bit of margin for error with Steph Curry now being 4-1. And look, you don't want to be 1 over 500. You want to be multiple games over and continue to push. And I think the Pelicans are the kind of team, they're one of the teams that I've had as, I don't think they're going to win as many games this year as they did last year. And if they don't, then I think it's going to be a situation where they're one of those teams that the Warriors maybe can get in their kitchen if they truly are a night in, night out, competitive, regular season, feisty, kind of a deep team that can win even shorthanded. Like those are the teams that make hay and are able to finish ahead of other teams who don't take things as seriously in the regular season. And I think, getting 2 wins in hand against this Pelicans team head to head goes to potentially prove that point. All right, let's get back to the phones. 808 KNBR and Doug in San Jose next here on the Sports Leader. What's going on tonight, Doug?
Is that me?
That's you, Doug. What's going on, man? Did we get your name right?
No, this is Duck Sauce, JD. What's going on, brother?
Oh, it's Duck Sauce. Okay. You know what? Duck Sauce, what's going on, brother? I'm going to blame Overnight Dave. I got to blame Overnight Dave because he heard Duck Sauce and he went Doug. So I got Doug. I got guys here who'll vouch for me. It says Doug on my screen, but it says Doug on the screen. So I apologize. Duck Sauce. What's going on tonight, my man?
Hey, it's good, man. Hearing your voice talking hoop, it means it's my favorite time of year. So, just a few takes, early takes on the season. The first is I'm personally a Buddy Hield apologist because I was not excited about that signing at all. I personally never thought he was interested in playing any kind of defense. And aside from the obvious, shooting's been off the charts, but he's been far from terrible defensively to me. And also, he's been putting it on the floor too, which I also didn't think he had in his game. So shout out to Buddy Hield, man. He's shutting me up. So, but the other had a couple of takes on Kuminga was I thought tonight what looked better is the ball was not sticking as much as it had been the prior games when he was on the court. I thought he was more decisive with his decisions tonight. And the other night, I actually heard you make a good point. You said when he plays the 4, it kind of simplifies the game for him because he starts closer to the basket, which I do think is a valid point. However, we could disagree on this a little bit. I think it's a little overblown because even though, he played the 4 tonight, a lot of his point of attack came from outside the 3-point line still. So
it did tonight for sure. I agree with you. It did tonight. It definitely was out. It was definitely out farther than it typically is.
For sure. And he had a really nice sidestep. I forgot who he put that move on, but that was nasty. And I just thought he was much better tonight. He looked more confident to me tonight. And the last thing I wanted to say, when you were kind of speaking on the West a little bit too, is I'm looking at a couple of teams, and I wouldn't be surprised if the West isn't as tough this year. I think Denver's got some problems on their bench, and I think Minnesota's got some problems too. So, things are looking good, man. I'm a little surprised by it, but I'm happy with what I see, and that's all I got. Right on, JD. I'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, no, appreciate the call, Duck Sauce. So as far as the West goes, and we'll get into Kuminga a little bit as well, and Buddy, because I was one of the guys that said, hey, Buddy Hield, he can shoot it, but that's about all he does. And he has done more than that through the first 5 games. Now, 5 games does not make a season, but Buddy Hield has also talked about the fact that because he's been around Steph Curry and Draymond Green here for the last month plus, maybe sees the game a little bit differently than he has at different points in his career. So maybe he's evolving a little bit into trying to be the kind of player that is more conducive to playing winning basketball. And so maybe a refined Buddy Hield, but yeah, he has put it on the deck a little bit. His defense has not been terrible to this point. I think he deserves credit for all of those things. As far as Kuminga, again, I think the 3 versus the 4 thing, which comes up a lot, and tonight Duck Sauce is absolutely right. A lot of his drives came from it's not so much. It's the players that are out there with him that allow more space on the floor for him to operate as much as it is where he starts. I think where he starts with the ball is beneficial if it's a little bit closer to the basket. But when he's out there with multiple shooters, as he was a lot of the time tonight, I think that really helps him to get his game going. He was out there with when he's out there with Buddy Hield and he's out there with Lindy Waters, or even Moses Moody at different points. I mean, there were some lineups last night where he was out there and there were multiple shooters out on the court with him. I mean, it was Waters and Hield with Draymond, and then Kyle Anderson was basically running the point. And that was one of the most effective, if not the most effective lineups for the Warriors in the game last night. But to me, it's just having other threats out there and having the game be a lot more simplified and not feeling like you have to take so many threes was the big one. He only took 1 3 tonight. I think taking 1 3 is good for Jonathan Kuminga. He doesn't have to be this guy that's constantly looking to be this 3-point shooter. When it's in the paint, that's when he's at his most successful. And when it's off of the other actions of this Warriors offense is when he's most successful. So really good night for Kuminga. As for the West, and Greg, I want to get your thoughts on this a little bit from kind of watching the league here the first week of the season, the first 8 nights. I've been impressed with the Lakers, who did get blown out by the Cavs tonight. I've been impressed by the Lakers and Suns, I was all over Denver. I think Denver's going to struggle. I know they've won a couple after losing their first couple, but they've really had to work hard to win. In Toronto, I think, and against Brooklyn, they had to win a couple of really hard-fought wins just to get back to level. But I think I would have put the Lakers and Suns in the category kind of that I would put the Pelicans as, hey, they're maybe not going to be as good as they were last year or not as engaged as they were last year. That has not been the case through a week, but it's only a week. And LeBron was sick tonight and played in the hometown, and we'll see how long that lasts. I think the West, to Duck Sauce's point, and I said this at the beginning of the year, I don't think the West is going to be nearly as good as it was last year. I think it's going to be more like it was 2 years ago, where it's balanced, and a team like the Pelicans becomes a team that the Warriors can catch. A team like the Suns becomes a team that maybe the Warriors can pass as they deal with their own level of injuries or selective engagement. I think Denver's going to be fighting to stay out of the play-in tournament when it's all said and done come March and April. And look, I think they're a really good team that is top-heavy in terms of their roster. I think Minnesota, when they made the trade, I don't love that trade for the Timberwolves. I didn't love it for the Knicks. I don't love it for the Timberwolves. I think Minnesota's going to spend
There's one more team that I do like, though, that you haven't mentioned. And
trying to figure it out.
They're coming on November 12th.
Yeah, Dallas has looked really good. Yeah, I'm not putting Dallas in that category of team. Like, I think Dallas is a team that probably will be as good, if not better, even regular season better, as long as Luka and Kyrie are both engaged and playing the bulk of the games. No, I think Dallas is going to have a chance to be near the top or at the top of the Western Conference in the regular season when you look at all of these other teams that I just mentioned. And again, to this point, I will say, impressed with Dallas, impressed with Phoenix, impressed with the Lakers, not impressed with Denver, not impressed with Minnesota, not impressed with the Pelicans to this point in time. Super impressed with Oklahoma City. That goes without saying, and they're obviously 4-0, and I think they're going to be the team that ends up 1 in the West. I mean, let's be honest. But I think Dallas can be in that mix and probably ends up being 2. But beyond Oklahoma City, and then I would put Dallas 2, I think it's really, really, really wide open. And those next 6 teams in the pecking order, I mentioned 3 that I kind of like. I mentioned 3 that I'm kind of down on. Well, when you start looking at the group that's beneath those 6, it's the Warriors and it's the Sacramentos and it's the Houstons and maybe the Memphises that have a chance to vault themselves into a category better than they wound up at the end of the year last year. So I think the Warriors are in that mix, and I think the way the Warriors are built, Greg, puts them in position to win enough regular season games to where high 40s might get you a 3 seed. I'll just say it right now. High 40s might get you a 3 seed this year like it did a couple of years ago for Sacramento.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm willing to go there in terms of what the West is. I don't know if it's going to be quite what it was 2 years ago, even if it's not what it was last year. I think still it could be closer to last year than it was a couple of years ago, and where you still might need to get, 44, 45 to get to where you want to be in a, place where you have a legitimate fight to make a playoff run. Just to clarify, Dallas, I was mentioning in the category of has looked really good and definitely better than the Warriors to this point. Oklahoma City goes without saying. Denver has struggled, but I'm actually still a believer that they can figure it out, whether that's making a move at the midseason deadline or just, having a really tight core 6 or 7 that finds a way to click, because I do think Michael Malone's one of the best coaches in the league and they still have the best player. So I'm not just going to go and count them out. I don't think I'll say they'll be fighting for a play-in spot, but you're right in that if they look how they have the first week, it could be a long year for Denver with Jokic just trying to carry them on his back. I mean, he will be that team's workhorse, which, that would probably be a dream of his in another life. But yeah, West is going to be interesting. I do think there's a lot of teams that have a shot at being a problem, especially if they peak at the right time. But this is why the 4-1 counts for a lot for me, because it's how you win and how you lose that counts. Because I'll take the whole 3-2 thing a step further. If you said they beat Portland and Utah, split with the Pelicans, and lost to the Clippers, well, then my next question would be, after watching all the last year fourth quarter debacles, okay, well, how were the 2 games they lost? And the 1 game they've lost so far, I can live with. Steph Curry got hurt mid-game. They played a lineup without Draymond, too, in the fourth quarter, and almost completed a 10-point comeback, just fell a little bit short at the end. Pelicans, now we've seen them win games in 3 different styles this year, the Warriors have. That was a blowout against an inferior opponent on the road for the first 2. That was coming back after getting punched in the mouth last night. And then tonight, it was just kind of grinding out a little bit of an ugly game where shots weren't falling. The other team responded, and then you had to pull away and make sure you put the exclamation point on it with holding on to the lead. So I like how they're winning games, because you got to do it in a variety of ways. That's what good teams do. And then just to top it all off, when you're doing this against other Western Conference teams, every little win is going to add up when it gets to the final week of that regular season when seeding is decided.
No question. I think that's well said. He's Greg Silver. I'm John Dickinson out here at Harmonic Brewing. It's Dubs OT with JD. Cheers to everybody out at Harmonic. Cheers to Greg back in our San Francisco studios. I want to give a couple of shout outs here on the YouTube chat. Our friends NoCap757. Good to see NoCap757 in the chat. And Robert, Kenneth Contreras. Atco Pest Control is back and in the chat tonight and active. Welcome, Atco Estimated Eyes. Appreciate you. Land of the Hella from Land of the Hella. Chug a glass, JD. I will sip on this one just for you. Atco Pest Control. Appreciate you and all the fine work. Erwin Kwong, feeling good. Erwin, thank you for chiming in. Mike Val. A lot of great people, a lot of our regulars here. San Jose Jazz fan, the 4th tonight. Matt A., appreciate you. We'll get to some more of the specifics in terms of the comments coming up in our next segment, but do want to make sure we're shouting everybody out. Andis Brown. Andis, appreciate you. Great to see one of the regulars from last year. I haven't seen Andis as much. Maybe it's just because the comments are flooded here. But yeah, Andis Brown. East looks more dangerous than the West so far. Still early. Yeah, it's very early. But the 1 week observations, I would tend to agree with you, Andis. I think the West looks a little bit more balanced and or borderline mediocre. And again, I'm not talking about OKC or Dallas, and I've been impressed. 2 teams I will admit that I thought were not going to look as good this early, Phoenix and the Lakers, and they both look pretty good. But I kind of think if I had to, 1 week into the year, this is an overreaction. 1 week into the year, if I had to pick the 6 teams that have impressed me in terms of like who would the top 6 in the West, I shouldn't do this. Should I, Greg? I'm not going to do it. Should I do this?
Do it.
I don't know. I don't. Maybe after the break. Well, I like OKC and Dallas. Then I think you draw a line. I've been impressed by Phoenix and the Lakers. I think the Warriors, through a week, I mean, they look connected enough to where I'd kind of bet on them to if they continue to be the kind of team that can just pluck off regular season wins left and right. I kind of like the Clippers and the Kings as well as teams that I think would be in that mix. Now, that being said, I do still think Minnesota and Denver and all these teams that I may be down on in the first week of the season are very much capable of still being anywhere between 3 and 6 in the Western Conference. So all of that, I think still rings true. And then you've got, some of the ne'er-do-wells. Portland started to slip at 2 and 3. The Jazz have looked worse than anybody They're 0-4 to begin the year, and they're 0-4 with 3 home games in the books in their first 4 games. So that is not good. They are going to be big-time tanking, I think, for Cooper Flagg before it's all said and done. So 808 KNBR, 415-808-5627. We'll pause here. We'll come back. We'll get Sounds of Silver, and we will also dive more deeply into the YouTube chat. Warriors get the win. Rough night in the Bay. If you're a Giants fan, having to watch the Dodgers win the World Series, but a bright night in the Bay if you're a Golden State Warriors fan, trying to make everybody feel better about that. 104-89 the final. It's Dubs OT with JD on KNBR 104.5 and 680, the sports leader.
Did you hear something?
Yeah, like a swoosh.
Yeah.
Dubs OT presents the sounds of silver. Streaming live on YouTube at KNBR 104.5.
All right, back here on Dubs OT from Harmonic Brewing in Thrive City. Warriors are 4-1. They sweep the 2-game miniseries against the Pelicans, 104-89 the final over at Chase tonight. 808 KNBR, if you want to jump in and join the conversation, 415-808-5627. Golden State Lumber and Building Materials text line open. The YouTube chat is flowing. More coming up from the YouTube chat momentarily here. But it is that time where we bring in the one and only Greg Silver back at our San Francisco studios for a little Sounds of Silver here, checking out the best in the post-game reaction. It was a Draymond Green podium night. What night isn't a Buddy Hield podium night? I think Buddy Hield's been at the podium every single night in the beginning of this season. Maybe not Sunday when he was had a little bit of a rough shooting night, but Buddy back at the podium tonight. And let's find out what the pulse of the Golden State Warriors locker room was after this one. What do you got for us tonight, Greg?
We got 5 on the docket. Buddy Hield was at the podium, but we actually are not going to go in that direction because he's given us so much good content already. So we're going to start with the guy that always, for better or worse, provides content, and that is Mr. Draymond Green, the man of the night. And this is what he had to say talking about defending Zion Williamson, which he did pretty darn well for a couple straight nights here. So this is Draymond.
Just really taking on his force. I was telling him last night, man, he's gotten so much better. Way he's moving, he's finishing a lot better. He missed some chippies tonight, but it's also a team effort. You need a lot of guys shrinking. But I wanted to bounce back. Last night I told him he got the best of me. Last night he gave me hell, and so I just wanted to bounce back and have a good defensive performance tonight.
Yeah, Zion did last night, but again, you give and I think that's few people have said, hey JD, why are they playing these 2 games in a row? And I mentioned it last night, the schedule, and a lot of the teams in the Southwest, some of the teams in the Northwest division, they tend to get more of those games than the Warriors do, and it seems like when the Warriors do, it's always against Minnesota or the Pelicans or Memphis, one of those teams, but it's for travel and trying to limit, I think, some of the back and forth for some of the teams that are basically in the Southeast that are in the Southwest division, but they're really in the Southeast. The Pelicans, the Grizzlies, among those teams, the Rockets, obviously Dallas and San Antonio. But when you get the matchup, the point I was making, Greg, when you get that matchup 2 nights in a row and you give Draymond Green an opportunity to adjust, I'm always betting on Draymond Green having the ability to play better the second night against his opponent than he does the first night, and that was absolutely the case. He made Zion Williamson's life hell in this one tonight, and it helped lead the Warriors to this win.
Oh, yeah, and just to be clear, because I know I said he did it 2 nights in a row, Zion was a monster last night. I think my thinking was more just that Draymond seemed to be the only one that could position his body in a way to force Zion out of continuing to kill him, because
he had the best shot last night. No question. He had the best. Draymond was giving him the best chance to be successful.
Yeah, and tonight Draymond did that and then more by kind of just negating Zion Williamson. Then there was no CJ McCollum. Brandon Ingram really never got it going, and so that was not a lot of offense to show for the Pelicans. They only put up 89. And we're going to stick on the Draymond theme for 2 more cuts. This next one, very short, but it's a guy that I don't know if he has been inducted into the Sounds of Silver family yet, because he is a newer player, and I don't know if we've gotten his postgame. It's slow-mo. Kyle Anderson, this is what he had to say about his teammate Draymond Green. It's short, sweet, and simple.
Draymond was the best player on the floor tonight, guarding Zion, knocking down open treys, getting us in our offense, making plays, offensive rebounds, scoring at the rim. He was the best player on the floor tonight.
Yeah, no question. I mean, well said. Short and sweet and to the point. And how many times have we said that, Greg, throughout the years, where it's not necessarily the guy who's putting up 30 that is the best player or the most impactful player on the floor, or at least the most impactful on one end. And again, it was Draymond's world tonight, and the Warriors needed it to be, and he delivered.
Well, and listen too, we love all of our callers. We love all of the chat. The community here at Dubs OT is incredible. But when we got asked last night on the phone about possibly trading Draymond Green and seeing what they could flip for him, he is still a very, very elite defender. And I know that it's not going to show up maybe on a night in, night out basis like it was back in 2015, 16, 17, and his body has more wear and tear on it. But when Draymond is playing at the peak of his powers, there are still very few who can do what he does. And for a 6'6" guy in high tops to go and defend some of the best 7-footers in the world, it really is something else.
No, it's impressive as hell. And look, I mean, Draymond's starting to get up there a little bit, but I also think Draymond's an extremely prideful individual. And, he doesn't necessarily want to go out like a chump. that's letting a lot of the new wave and the younger guys be able to come in and kind of dominate him. So for him to be able to still show he's got something left in the tank, I think is something that's still a motivating force for Draymond Green, even at the age of 34, and somebody that's going to be 35 coming up here in February.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And I think that another person who is very prideful and still has a lot of belief in Draymond Green is his head coach, who we're going to hear from right now. He says that Draymond Green still one of the best at the defensive side of the ball in the entire world.
He's still one of the best defenders in the world, that's for sure. The way he battled out there, but also the way he led, his energy, talking to the team during timeouts at halftime. He was fantastic.
What did he do well on Zion particularly?
He just made it hard on him. But, 7 free throws for Zion, that's a good number for us. I mean, you just worry that he's going to have one of those games where he gets 14, 15 free throws. And Draymond has a unique ability to be physical without fouling. And it's because he's so smart. He knows the angles. He understands how to use his strength and his long arms to make people have to shoot over him. And he's an incredible shot challenger. I think Ingram had a 3 late, and Draymond just went from the middle of the paint all the way to the 3-point line and got a piece of it. It was just amazing to watch. Just watch how smart he is and how active he is.
Yeah, and it was on full display in this one. It's funny to hear Steve say, hey, yeah, 7 free throws, that's great. And you knew the Pelicans were really going to feed the ball to Zion Williamson, not having McCollum, already not having DeJounte Murray. They did have Brandon Ingram, not having Murphy in this one as well. And so you really got the impression that the Pelicans' belief that their opportunity to have a chance in this game was going to be Zion Williamson dominating. And it was far from it. And the reason it was far from it was because of Draymond Green taking him out of the game. And forcing him into a lot of tough looks, forcing him into some free throws, but not a lot of free throws. And he didn't even shoot the ball well from the free throw line tonight, just 2 of 7 at the free throw line. So Zion made the Warriors' life hell the first night. Warriors got the dub, and Draymond Green made Zion Williamson's life hell the second night. And most importantly, the Warriors got the dub. What's up next, Greg?
Well, we only play the highest audio quality cuts on Sounds of Silver. So I've never gotten a single remark about that before. So we're going to go back to a guy that had one of those great quality cuts, and it's Jonathan Kuminga. And tonight proves that it was not on Jonathan Kuminga. Maybe it was on TNT. This is what Jonathan Kuminga had to say, and I'm not even going to tease the quote because I think that you're going to like the quote, JD, and we'll just get right to it here.
I feel like it's been great. It wasn't as solid as we wanted today, but we came and picked it up. Same way as yesterday. It's just like we all talked down there. The more we put pressure on defense, the more it makes our offense just very easy.
Defense leading to offense. I mean, that's what it's all about, especially when you don't have number 30 on the court there. Were you setting something else up? Was that what great audio quality? I will say that. There's no question.
It was just the larger theme of our defense improves our offense, because I think that the defensive effort or being able to play within a 5-man unit and help sometimes has been a talking point around Kuminga. So just to kind of hear him have that click in his head of, hey, maybe it's not about going out there and scoring or playing X position or, doing whatever he might want to do. I just continuing to get the understanding and learn from a guy like Draymond of the offense is going to come for him like it did for the last, 6 quarters of his playing. When he's patient and the team's locking down defensively, he's not going to have to worry so much rather about what's going to be there for him on offense.
Yeah, I think that's well said. What's up next, Greg?
Last one here actually does not have much to do with defense. It doesn't have to do much with Draymond Green on the court necessarily, but I thought this was a quote that our audience was definitely going to want to hear because he explains a little bit how his on-court emotions have improved since last year. And hey, it's 5 games, but, 1 technical in the opener, and so far so good other than that.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you said, it's a fresh start. I know coming in, I had an awful year last year. It was just not right. Didn't play well. Didn't act well. And, I want to, like you said, I want to show the real me. I want to show the growth. I talked last year about being a champion of change, arguing referees. These guys are human. They make mistakes, and I'm trying to understand that. Such an emotional game. I play, one of my best attributes is playing with my emotions. And so taking that next step and learning how to play with those emotions, but knowing where to channel those is a big, important step for me and something that I'm really focusing on this year.
Well, so far, so good. And look, if Draymond Green is picking up 1 technical every 8 to 10 games, I think the Warriors can absolutely live with that because, 16 gets you a suspension in the regular season. If he's keeping it around single digits to 10, I think you'd absolutely live with that. And again, you can't have any catastrophic events, right? You can't have a Rudy Gobert type of an event. You can't have a Nurkic type of an event that where the league office has got to get involved and it winds up being multiple games and weeks that you miss. But no, I think Draymond to this point is in a good headspace. And I'll go back to something we said a little bit earlier on in the program, Greg. It's the fact that Draymond without Steph playing, I think his demeanor, it felt like every freaking time Steph Curry would be out here these last couple of years, Draymond would just be running off like about to explode. And these last 2 nights, there hasn't even been a hint of that, not a shred of that, which I think has the potential to bode well here moving forward. And not only that, but he ends up helping them, leading them to this victory. Again, shorthanded the Warriors, shorthanded the Pelicans. Couple of wins against a couple of bad teams the first week, but none of that matters. This team's 4-1, and they're feeling like they're in a really good position here going on what should be a pretty difficult road trip.
Yeah, and again, for me, it's the how with these games, how they have lost, how they have been able to win. I don't have a true gripe with any of the 5 so far. I would say that very impressed with the first 2 and that it wasn't a struggle. They didn't play with their food. Game number 3 against the Clippers, ideally, you'd like to win the home opener. But look, the Clippers, even without Kawhi Leonard, still a good defensive team and the toughest test they had seen. Buddy Hield had a very off game, and Steph Curry wasn't there for the fourth quarter. So you can kind of forgive it in that sense. Wiggins has also looked great to this point, minus the 2 games he just missed now. Last night, it was instead of giving up when things got hard early, you turn to your 13th guy on the roster, and then everybody else kind of followed, including a guy who had a right to be a little bit pouty based on what we saw in the pregame with the news of Jonathan Kuminga moving to the bench coming out. He responded really nicely. And then tonight, this was not a fantastic game by anybody not named Draymond Green, but it was very, very gritty. And again, Buddy Hield catching fire at the right time. I can't really complain with these first 5 on the how. I like the focus. I like the fight. People seem to not care about the right things and care about the right things all at the same time. So good signs there for Dub Nation to this point.
And I will add, a couple of thoughts just from kind of checking around. A lot of praise from Draymond Green. And this is via Tim Kawakami for Jerry Stackhouse's work with the Warriors defense. Tim writes, Draymond said Stackhouse holding players accountable in a way that they haven't had in a while. And Kawakami's take on that is since Mike Brown left. So interesting. I know the Warriors wanted to freshen up the coaching staff this offseason. I thought Terry Stotts was a hell of an addition offensively. And just in terms of having somebody that's experienced at the highest of levels in terms of being a head coach in the league, having him be your number 2 is excellent, and somebody that can help your offense. But Jerry Stackhouse was somebody that I had the opportunity to sit down with at Media Day before flying over to Hawaii. and he is just an impressive dude. The intensity, you can feel it. The seriousness, you can sense it just in his presence. And I think there is, to that point, from Tim Kawakami through Draymond and others that he's spoken to down in the Warriors locker room over at Chase Center, there's an accountability in play that, again, maybe hasn't been there. I think I don't want to put down anybody that the Warriors had here previously in terms of coaches, but I think this is the best coaching staff that the Warriors have had in many years, top to bottom, offense, defense, players who recently played in the league that a lot of the guys playing in the league remember seeing play and respect. And so when that kind of a guy, speaking of a Jerry Stackhouse, is the guy who's holding people accountable, it tends to hit a little bit different than maybe somebody else. So I think the Warriors have really found it in terms of not only the offensive coordinator and 1A for Coach Kerr and Stotts, but also in the defensive coordinator in Jerry Stackhouse, who really, he told me, and you may remember, I mean, he wasn't necessarily going to be an assistant coach in the NBA this season, but the Warriors were a franchise that when they came calling and when Steve Kerr came calling and the opportunity to work with Steph and Draymond specifically defensively to kind of figure out the way to do things, he wanted to be a part of it. And so I think we're seeing, how do you improve on the margins? Will you improve on the margins by having a coaching staff that can help get the most out of each and every player each and every night over 82 games? And I think, again, really small sample size through 4 or 5 games, but I think we've seen that.
Oh, yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, Terry Stotts was an addition I was really excited about from the get-go, just and the way he's kind of tweaked the offense is, again, so far so good. It's a little refreshing. Jerry Stackhouse I'm glad you got to talk to him before training camp, because when that news was coming over too, I was excited to hear how it would be from the player perspective, because he is a player's coach, and just getting to hear the interview and play that before we had our first Dubs OT and before our Warriors training camp shows when you were living the fine life out on the islands. Jerry Stackhouse seemed like a really good dude. I sensed some real, just a real genuine personality when you got to kind of sit down and pick his brain a little bit. So I'm excited. Well, maybe excited is the wrong word, but I am very much, curious as to when the Warriors face their first bit of extended adversity, how this coaching staff kind of responds in leading these players, because they have had adversity in the sense of Steph and Wiggins didn't play these last 2 games, but there's always going to be something that goes in an 82-game season. So kind of curious to see how everyone sticks together through the ups and downs of an 82-game season in a really competitive West.
All right, 808 KNBR, 415-808-5627. Let's go ahead and pause here again, and we will come back and we will have some fun with numbers for you, and we will dive deeper into the YouTube chat here as well, as the party is still going on at Harmonic Brewing in Thrive City as the Dubs get the win over the Pelicans, 104-89 here on the Sports Leader.
Welcome back to the Warriors Invitational, baby.
This is Dubs OT with JD. Time now for fun.
I'm a fun guy.
With numbers.
No, I'm just having fun.
On KNBR 104.5 and 680. Streaming live on KNBR.com and the KNBR app.
All right, back here on Dubs OT with JD from Harmonic Brewing here in Thrive City. Cheers to those who are watching on the YouTube stream, and also cheers to the fine folks. And there's a trio here, Greg. We've got Eric, Mike, and Anthony, who all stopped by. They're sitting right here at the table. They're listening to the show, and I wanted to make sure I let them know. I had been on the air, and we hadn't chatted, Greg, until the last break here. But I wanted to make sure to let them know what I failed to mention last night, but will mention now and moving forward here on each of these Dubs OT shows from Harmonic Brewing. The 2023-24 offer, the JD Harmonic Brewing offer, still stands this season, which is if you stop by and you say hi, I buy you around. That is 100% still in play. So Eric and Mike and Anthony are enjoying a brew right now and enjoying the show here. at Harmonic Brewing, and I made sure to let them know, Greg, hey, I got you. And you know what? I'm extending it even to, because they've been here for the last 90 minutes or so since we got on the air, went to the game tonight and all that. I made sure to tell them, hey, you know what? I'll get you next time if you guys come through and want to enjoy. So, yeah, big fans of KNBR, big fans of Dubs OT, big fans of yours truly, and I just couldn't be more grateful for all of that. So shout out to Eric, Mike, and Anthony, who are out here at Harmonic. They stopped by and said hi and earned, Greg, their beer on JD out here at Harmonic.
Well, shout out to them. Big thank you. And I love that they earned it. You got to put in the work. We've had some people in the chat that are not out there tonight, but they have more than earned their time as, true Dubs devotees. Erwin Kwong never disappointed when he came out to Harmonic. San Jose Jazz fan was doing the full pint sampler, kind of combining the flight with just full glasses, and that was one of the most impressive things I've ever seen. So, yeah, the offer stands. Please, it brings me joy when you run up JD's tab. So if you're not going to do it for yourself, do it for the team at KNBR.
Yes, do it for the team. And we will be back out here. Our next show out here, hard to believe, right? Rapid fire, but it's Klay Thompson's return is the next night that we're going to be out here for Dubs OT with JD on November the 12th. So 13 nights from tonight, 12 days here, beginning with tomorrow. And then the Warriors and the Dallas Mavericks on Tuesday the 12th after the 5-game road trip that sees the Warriors go to Houston, Washington, Boston, Cleveland, and Oklahoma City over the next 10 days. And the Warriors then will host Klay Thompson and the Dallas Mavericks on that night. And that's going to be an incredible night here at Chase. Greg, we might have to see if you come out for that night and help out, right? I mean,
well, our lovely
I don't want to get over our skis.
Mike Holler just went on a week-long vacation, so I'm going to let him have some peace. Okay. We're going to let him have some peace. We are going to let him have some peace. He's going to be a good family member. He's going to have a great time out on his undisclosed location. And then when he returns, then we'll go back to bothering him every day. And I want to make sure that he gets that wonderful rest time so that when I do start bothering him every day, it's just like it's back to normal and not like, hey, weren't you just doing this for the last week? I don't need that weird worlds collide kind of meshing thing. I'm just going to save it for like the normal routine of, hey, I know it's 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, and 12 o'clock, and my shift doesn't start till 2, but I got 6 questions for you.
Yeah, it's all fair, and I would definitely wait. Definitely wait. Let him get back in the building. I think he's in the building Tuesday. Let him get back in the building Tuesday or Wednesday next week. Like it's his bye week as well. So yeah, you got to let that ride. But we'll see when he returns if we can get Greg Silver out here. I know Tolbert and Copes are going to be out here in the lead up to that one at Harmonic Brewing, and then of course I'll be out here at Dubs OT. But we are going to do some Dubs OT specials with Greg and the 2-man show. We're going to pick our spots like we did. We had the big the Greg Silver birthday spectacular, which also was our playoff preview, our play-in preview, and regular season in review back on the final game of the regular season back in April. So that may become a regular annual event here to close out the season.
Well, stay tuned for All-Star Weekend as well. It's at Chase Center, the one and only.
Yeah, All-Star Weekend will be tremendous. We can definitely do a Dubs OT special edition from Harmonic for the All-Star game. That will be fantastic. But right now, let's get to some fun with numbers, and then I promise my ADD will subside, and we'll get into the YouTube chat here and make sure we hit the best comments of the night from everybody in the YouTube chat here on Dubs OT on Esports Leader. Let's get to the fun with numbers. Warriors are 4-1 after the back-to-back home wins over the Pelicans. They were also 4-1 last year. So pump the brakes. If you're into the whole pump the brakes thing, don't get too high, don't get too low. The Warriors were 4-1 after 5 last year. and 6-2 after 8 before things took a little bit of a different turn. And then they were kind of hovering around 500 for the bulk of the year until they got hot toward the end of January and into February, March, and April before they ended with the 46-36 regular season record, which was good enough for the 10 seed. But this was the first of 14 back-to-backs. Last year, the Warriors had 17 back-to-backs. They're 2-0. 1-0 in the first half, 1-0 in the second half, 2-0 overall for the Warriors as they have played the same opponent in consecutive games in the same arena 27 times. This is just the third time that the Warriors have won both games against the same opponent. You got to go back to a couple of games against the Rockets in the COVID year and a couple of games against Oklahoma City in the COVID year where the Warriors did that trick back in the spring of 2021. The Warriors holding their opponent under 90, 89 tonight, 86 in Salt Lake City back on Friday. Warriors held an opponent under 90 last year. The last time they did it was in February 23rd against Charlotte. 9 blocks for the Warriors. We talked about the blocks earlier, and it was 9 blocks back-to-back nights. First time they've done that since the end of last season. But the Warriors seem much more active defensively. Passing lanes, I know, Greg, you pointed it out and sent along a note from NBC Sports Bay Area in our little thread before the game. Coming into this one, it was basically the hustle stats, and it was steals, deflections, fast break points. The Warriors are number 1 in the NBA coming into the game in those categories. They're also top 5 in second chance points coming in, top 5 in offensive rebounds, and they're forcing turnovers at a really high clip. Number 2, I believe it was. I'm just doing this off the top of my head, coming back or coming into the game tonight. So the hustle stats for the Warriors have been really productive, and block shots are a part of that. And so the Warriors blocking shots in the early part of this season, getting a lot of deflections, 9 in back-to-back games for the first time this season. How about Draymond Green tonight? 14 points in this one, 4 boards, 6 assists, 5 blocks, and a steal. You want to take a guess at the Warriors' record? All time, the Warriors' record, 60 games, Greg, 60 games where Draymond has made at least 3 3-pointers. Would you believe that it's happened 60 times? First of all,
I would. And I can think of 2 losses painfully off the top of my head. There was 38 points against Portland.
Game 7 of the finals, right?
Game 7 of the finals in 2016. I'm going to say, though, that they are, back when he was making a lot of threes, they won a lot of games. 54-6.
53-7. Are so close. The Warriors are 53-7. I want to thank Daryl Arata of Warriors PR as well for. I'm going to give him a nod for some of these notes here that often appear in our Fun with Numbers segment. But yeah, he did the digging on that one specifically. 53-7 when the Warriors, when Draymond specifically makes 3 3-pointers in a game. Draymond, 10th time in his career with 5 blocks, which is 1 shy of his career high, which is 6 blocks. So Draymond making his presence felt in a major way. Trace Jackson Davis, 15-9. It feels like Trace Jackson Davis is either a double-double or damn near close to a double-double every single night here since he's gotten regular run, even going back to last year toward the end of the season when he entered the starting lineup when Jonathan Kuminga got hurt and Steve Kerr kind of fell in love with that TJD, Draymond Green front court at the 4 and the 5 respectively. How good has Brandon Podziemski been? There's nights he scores, there's nights he doesn't, but regardless, he's always a net positive. And as far as the counting stats go for Podziemski, 13 8 assists, 9 boards for Brandon Pajemski, a plus 13 in this one. And he took another charge in this one. Also took a shot to the face and arm in this one. I mean, Brandon Pajemski's always just kind of laying it on the line. And a wonderful effort from Brandon Pajemski. At least 10, 5, and 5. He did that 17 times last year, which was the most of all rookies. He does it again in this one. And Buddy Hield, again, 4th time in 5 games that Buddy Hield's had 20 or more for the Warriors. He finishes the night with 21 points and has made 24 3-pointers in the first 5 games of the season. Checking Buddy Hield's tally. Buddy Hield, 4 more in this one, 4 of 12. Got off to a little bit of a slow start, but was cooking down the stretch in this one. Again, helping carry the Warriors to this 15-point victory, 104-89. The final, and the Warriors hoping to get healthy here on the road as Stephen Curry, the left peroneal, and Andrew Wiggins, the low back strain, along with DeAnthony Melton, right facet inflammation in the back, all missing their second consecutive game. Warriors improved to 2-0 without Steph, which is a feat, Greg, in and of itself. And we'll see Steph to be reevaluated on Friday. I don't think we're going to see Steph Curry Saturday or Monday. Nothing official. I'm not reporting that. It's more of just a gut sense. But I do think there's a possibility that we see Steph Curry back on the floor in Boston on the parquet going up against the defending champs in a game that's going to be on ESPN a week from tonight.
Well, selfishly speaking, I would love to see Steph Curry on Saturday because he seems to bring out some of his best against the Houston Rockets, whatever iteration of the team that it is. But I would agree with you that just based on my gut and kind of the initial reporting of the injuries and knowing his age and how careful they have to be with him all season, I probably wouldn't expect to see him out there. Monday we'll see, though, because it would be nice if he could get some run in before he's got to go play the defending champions. And the last time that they were out in that building, we don't talk about that.
Yes, we do not. We definitely do not, Greg. Let's wrap things up here tonight as the party is still going here at Harmonic with another deep dive into the YouTube chat. And I want to make sure we get a lot of the regulars. I've been telling Greg, find the best ones because I get my ADD just starts running wild. I want to shout everybody out. But we also want to make sure that we're as productive as possible here. So, Greg, let's kind of go semi-rapid fire, and I'm just going to read them as you put them up on the screen from a lot of our regulars, and we'll get into a conversation here. But we love the YouTube chat. Yeah, get out of here with that one. I'm not even going to acknowledge that one.
Derek.
Come on.
I just wanted to play the drop. I just wanted to play the drop.
I'm not doing that. Get out of here. Put that back on the screen. Put that back. Get out of here. FOH. Like, come on, man. Why would you do that? Like, I'm not in that game. Like, what are we doing? We're not trying to piss people off here tonight, Greg. Wow. All right. Cozy Codes, Cosmean. JD, next time you're on with Larry, please talk some sense into him about the Warriors. He's been super negative about the team, talking about Larry Krueger, my guy. You're right. He has been. Like, we've had, and look, when I've appeared on Niners Nightly, obviously we're keeping it to Niners because it's kind of like this show, right? It's Dubs OT. We're going to talk a lot of Warriors. When I've been on Niners Nightly, we're talking a lot of Niners. And he will occasionally, and he'll do it on the Krug Show on his YouTube channel, occasionally he will want to pick my brain on the Warriors. And I really have been pretty positive on the Warriors overall since training camp started in October in Hawaii. And yeah, it's, he feels like they're a little directionless. And he doesn't love when somebody says, yeah, they've got a lot of really good players, but maybe only one great player. And he's among the group, Greg, that doesn't love I don't think they really give a damn if Kuminga is being groomed to be a superstar this year or not. Like, I think they feel like there's a pathway to develop him and win with him being more of a role player as he's been the last couple of years. So far, though, it's been true. And look, I'm not saying Larry's necessarily wrong in his concerns. I think he speaks for a lot of Warrior fans. But I've been pretty open and honest with him in the fact that, I don't think this team necessarily can contend for a championship, but I do think they have the ability to be a good regular season team, and I think they've shown that to this point. Although, again, they did show last year they were 4-1 after 5 games, and then it was a mediocre city, really, until the final 2 months of the season. What else do we got, Greg? I will, by the way, try to, as the person in the chat said, talk some sense into Larry. Michael Chan, thank you. Warriors look good so far, but after last season's 6-1 start, I still want to see more. Was it 6-1 or 6-2? It was 6-2, right? Were they 6-1?
Yeah, 6-2, I think. And then the 9th game was that close loss at Denver.
Yeah, and then all hell kind of broke loose from there with some they played Minnesota. They lost to Cleveland. Then they played Minnesota, and Clay got in the fight with McDaniels, and then that was the Gobert night where Draymond put him in a headlock. And then, things got a little weird. Oklahoma City came in, and they let Chet Holmgren hit a wide open 3 to send a game into overtime. They got swept in these little 2-game mini series by the Timberwolves and the Thunder, and then it was an uphill climb from that point forward, basically until February. But yeah, you look at the Warriors at this point compared to last year, and I'm more optimistic. And looking at it, they were 5-1 last year, lost in Cleveland to go to 5-2, then beat Detroit to go to 6-2. So 5-1 last year for the Warriors. But I don't know. I think this is a better team than the team that the Warriors had last year. I just think the pieces fit together. It's a better balance of young and old. I think they have a better coaching staff. I think they're more equipped to be able to handle injuries. And I think the last 2 nights have shown that. So I'm a little bullish on the Warriors this year compared to last year. Andis Brown, JD's memory is insane. Yeah, I don't know that I could go through all 82 from last year, but I do remember those. I do remember the early beginning of that season a year ago, where the Warriors lost the opener, but then won 5 in a row. They beat Sacramento, Houston, the Pelicans, blew them out in New Orleans. And then Sacramento on the Klay Thompson game winner before going and winning at Oklahoma City to get to 5-1. That was the first of the in-season tournament games. And then, things kind of went downhill. They lost that game in Cleveland, beat Detroit, lost to Denver. I'm not going to do it, Greg. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to go through all 82. Jacob Micheletti, Warriors won't succeed without the defense they are showing early. The fact they do not have an out-and-out number 2 scorer, they are relying on the combined success of a lot of unproven guys. Fair point. They are relying on balance offensively, which does make it difficult, I think. It makes it difficult, I think, when you get into a playoff series. I think in the regular season, you can get away with it, especially the way the NBA is now. I think, Greg, you can get away with having a little bit more balance if you have enough guys. And I kind of think the Warriors, look at tonight. It was Trace and Draymond for a good chunk of the night. And then Kuminga all of a sudden's got 16 on what was really kind of a quiet, unassuming 16. And Buddy Hield ends up with 21 on a night after he had 3 at the half and finished with 28. So I don't know. I think it can work in the regular season considering the current state of the NBA. What do you think about that, Greg?
Yeah, I think that I'm with it in what I've seen so far. I buy the depth, and I do think they have a roster that can win them a lot of regular season games. I am a little bit iffy in a 7-game playoff series, especially when you look at some of the other teams, and I would say most of what will be a top 5 seed in either conference is going to have at least 2 big names on their team, if not 3.
Yeah, I think, but first things first, right?
First thing is first. And also that's not to discredit Draymond, but he's a star in a very concentrated area, and he's like unique in what he does. You know, like when Draymond was the third guy and you had Steph and Clay, like all 3 of those worked. But Draymond being a number 2 on his own, well, he's not that offensively at all when it comes to scoring. And I guess he kind of is when it comes to like being the point forward. But you know what I mean? It's like he's so unique that you don't think of him as like a 1-2 punch like Luka and Kyrie or, you know.
Oh, yeah, no.
Right. It's nothing like that.
No, and the Warriors they still don't have that second guy. I think it's okay for now, though, that they don't have that second guy. And hell, maybe Buddy winds up being the second guy. I mean, we shall see. Although, again, I think it's hard. The guys that you would have as the leading candidates to be the number 2. I mean, Andrew Wiggins, I think, is back in the conversation given the first 3 games that he had. But I think coming into the year, everybody was down on Wiggins. So you're kind of wondering, could he be in that mix? But I think everybody was high on Kuminga being the favorite to maybe be that guy. And it hasn't been him. And then Buddy Hield's just exploded in 4 of these first 5 games. So it's like, well, can it be Buddy or Kuminga? But then I look at Buddy and Kuminga, and I'm like, well, damn, Buddy and Kuminga might be coming off the bench more often than they're in the starting lineup here moving forward. Because I don't see the Trace Jackson-Davis thing changing at the center. They like that too much. Greg, and Draymond likes it too much. Draymond can get back to being more of an elite defender with TJD playing next to him. And when Wiggins comes back, Wiggins, I think, is going to start at the 3. I think because Kuminga's played well in these 2 games off the bench, I think if Wiggins can come back on Saturday in Houston, I think he goes back into the starting lineup, and the Warriors still end up starting either Lindy Waters or Buddy Hield to have some shooting next to Brandon Podziemski, assuming that Steph Curry still doesn't go. And I like I already said, I don't think Steph Curry's going to go in the game necessarily against the Rockets. But that makes it difficult to say Kuminga and Buddy are going to be your number 2 scorer because they both may be coming off the bench more than they're actually in the starting lineup. All right, what else do we have? Let's get a couple of more here from the land of the Hella. You know JK was good when JD gives him his props. It's 2 nights in a row. We got the tape to prove it. It's 2 nights in a row. You play well, you get your props. And look, Kuminga has played well. Like I've never been one it kind of goes hand in hand. And Greg, you can vouch for this. When you don't have the expectation that he has to become a star, it becomes much easier to look at individual games under a clearer lens and say, hey, he helped them win tonight and played what? Like Kuminga does not have to score 28 a night. He doesn't. And again, that goes back to the Larry Krueger conversation. Like there are a lot of people out there, no shade at Larry, who thought that the only chance for the Warriors to be good this year is if Kuminga became an all-star. I never believed that. All right, maybe I would have believed it in the summer after they couldn't get Paul George or couldn't get Lauri Markkanen. But again, I go back to the time in Hawaii and kind of learning more behind the scenes about the way this team was built. And they just don't – it was never the intent to throw that on Kuminga's plate. Maybe Kuminga threw it on his own plate, but the Warriors didn't want to add that pressure to him.
No, and that's kind of what I was getting at in our first Just Dubs last Saturday, which, by the way, will be back this Saturday at 11 o'clock, both streaming and right here on the airwaves. But it was just looking at the Jonathan Kuminga slow start from a perspective of relaxation and positivity of like, hey, Jonathan Kuminga has a lot to offer for this team, and he showed a lot of what he can offer. I just think that the expectation that he had to all of a sudden be good in certain areas that he still needed to work on, or like all that he needed to be the starting three for this team, and just things like that. It was like, guys, like, even if he's not doing that, there's still a lot of what he can do that the Warriors will gladly take. And we've seen that on display the last 2 nights. So I think there's room to improve in certain areas. I think he's going to be able to continue getting minutes by just being steady and effective. And when he does that, he can slowly gain confidence, and he'll probably get better at certain areas that he's not super polished in right now, all the while being able to give you the things that he can right now. So I just think that it's almost better for Kuminga and the team, frankly, if there's enough support around him where he doesn't have to fit the mold of being the true second scorer or the starting small forward or an all-star that will get this team over the top. Like, yeah, if you're going to invest in him and get him a contract, it's a different discussion. But they didn't do that extension going into the season, and therefore I don't think it needs to be such a charged and urgent matter.
415 on the Golden State Lumber Building Materials text line. Aloha. Well, Larry's gig is covering the Niners, so no sweat. Surprise, surprise, surprise. Warriors. Ha. Let's go. Thanks. Appreciate it. 415. Let's get a couple of more here in the YouTube chat, and then we're going to call it a night. Greg, you've had a long couple of days. I've had a long couple of days. We got a quick turnaround. Well, one of us has a quick turnaround. Greg, I don't think you have a quick turnaround tomorrow, but you've more than made up for it the last couple of days.
No, we're going to be splitting off into our own adventures tomorrow. You got filling in for Papa and Lund. It's going to be Lund and JD, and then I'll be doing some sports phone fun from 7 to 9 tomorrow night.
Yeah, so you got a little breathing room to sleep in till about 1 o'clock. Pretend like you're back in college. Sleep into like 2:30. Crush a burrito. Yeah, Matt, hey, this is what Greg's doing. Greg doesn't have to work till like 5 tomorrow. So Greg's he's gonna crush a burrito. He's gonna sleep till 2, crush a burrito like he's in college, and then come into the office and host Sports Phone tomorrow night. It's a good life Greg Silver's got for himself. Erwin Kwong, chocolate shot for Greg Silver. Is that don't tell me that's what I think it is. What kind of is that?
No, last year, Erwin, on the whole lead up to my birthday, Erwin was really wanting to get me a chocolate cake shot. And I think at one point he put the actual recipe in the YouTube chat. So we're going to have to revisit that when we get closer to April.
I remember that now. I remember that now. Can your pancreas handle that, though? That's the question.
Yeah, we might have to ask, all the people in the lovely KNBR ads that come on 10 times a day.
That's all I want to know. I hope we're okay with that. All right, couple more, Greg. Couple more. Let's keep them coming. Give me the best 3. We're going to go rapid fire 3 more here as we we love our YouTube chat. Andis Brown, one of my all-time faves. Kuminga took the challenge of guarding Ingram. Good point. He needs to have that attitude playing D against the best wings. That is a YouTube comment of the night nominee right there. We need a sounder for the YouTube comment of the night. Yes, Andis, I couldn't agree with you more. It's a mentality thing. It's a dirty work thing. It's a do the little things thing. I love when Kuminga accepts the challenge of doing the dirty work at the expense of maybe some of the stuff that's a little bit prettier. That's the stuff that's going to get him paid. That's the stuff that's going to get him paid by the Warriors specifically, and those are the things that will allow the Warriors to continue to allow him to develop his game to where it can spread out and flourish in the ways offensively and in a flashy manner that I think JK wants his game to flourish. That is an excellent point. And it's on a night where the Pelicans were a little shorthanded, Kuminga was into his defensive role tonight, and I think that was impressive. 2 more. All right, Gisak. Kudos to the scouts in the front office identifying pods in the draft. Let me tell you, I remember the night Brandon Pajemski was drafted, and Warrior fans were not loving that pick at number 19 overall from Santa Clara. They were not. It was viewed at the time as much of a gamer as he seemed to be and a ready to play now kind of a player, the upside for Podziemski at such a young age was not necessarily there. But yeah, Mike Dunleavy and staff have really found something in Brandon Podziemski, and he's turned into a hell of a player. Two more? One more.
I think that's pretty much all I got. Now the chat's just kind of on burritos, and I'm getting hungry. So I think, we pretty much rounded this one out well.
Yeah, Greg's going to crush a burrito tomorrow at about 2 and roll through it. But no, thanks to everybody. Drew down, our tip-off caller, AJ Cruz 75. Buddy hated playing in SAC. He did hate playing in SAC. That I can tell you for sure. But he didn't always look like a high-level player during his time in SAC. Great stuff. Joe Schmo, Duck Sauce, everybody chiming in here. Rockin' New Era 84, Atco Pest Control. Great to have Atco Pest Control. We've got full-on businesses in the YouTube chat here. So, yeah, we appreciate it. Greg, let's make sure we thank everybody. Some final thoughts here on this one. What makes a successful trip for the Warriors at 4-1? That is probably going to be the question du jour on Just Dubs, which will be the next time we speak on Saturday morning here on KNBR, 11 to noon. And then we'll be on with Dubs OT after the Warriors and the Rockets go at it on Saturday evening. But what makes a successful trip? It's a tough one. I'm going to set the bar at, if you can get the Washington game and get one of the other 4, I would take a 2-3. Don't say I'm having a loser mentality.
I would like a 3-2. I'm not going to expect a win out of Boston. Washington, I would like to have. Houston,
and Curry's
I would like
probably
to have.
not playing. I mean, Curry's probably not playing the first 2. So that, get Washington. It makes Houston tougher, although I think you can't. I mean, the Warriors have owned Houston. When's the last time they've lost to Houston? I think it was before COVID. So that's one where maybe they can get a win. But anyway, I cut you off.
Yeah, if you can go 3-2, get Houston, Washington, Cleveland, although Cleveland is the type of team they struggle with, I'd be pleased with it. I can live with a 2-3, but if we're just going to talk about what needs to show up, defense needs to travel if you want to have a chance winning these games. Defense has to travel, and then we'll talk records and wins and all of the numbers after that.
Defense has to travel, and defense has to travel against better teams as well. It has to be present against better teams. I think that's also very much on point. So, yeah, I'll say 2-3. If you're 6-4 coming back for the Clay game and beyond, I think that sets the Warriors up really well here moving forward into this season. All right, that'll do it for Greg Silver and for Kyle Haar and for Overnight Dave and Casey Copeland and everybody in the YouTube chat. Appreciate everybody who stopped by out here. Eric and Mike and Anthony, thank you. They're enjoying a brew here at Harmonic Brewing. We'll talk to you on the 12th from Harmonic. We'll talk to you on Saturday after the Warriors take on the Rockets. And I will talk to you tomorrow with John Lund here on KNBR 10-2, filling in for Greg Papa. Next couple of days, filling in for Pop. But we got you covered. Best Dubs coverage in the Bay. It's KNBR 104.5 and 680, the sports leader.
I don't know that anyone will guard Zion Williamson the rest of the year as well as Draymond has guarded him tonight. Seriously. 3 of 17. Buddy Hield missing that 3. Podziemski kept it alive. Buddy on a reload.
We can thank Podziemski for that effort to get an extra possession. Buddy Hield wants to hear from the crowd. Talk to him. The biggest lead is right now. They push it to 18.
Oh, hell yeah.
First of all, you got to start off liking each other.
Big fat dub.
I just wake up and I can shoot it no matter if I'm playing or not.
Earned, Greg, their beer on JD.
When we have a live post-game show, we're undefeated right now.
I love you, JD. Bye, sugar.